Top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you, whomever you may be, wherever you may be watching, wherever you may be looking, and wherever you may be listening. It's your boy Mo. I'm coming live and direct from the house, dog. I can't even lie. And man, I ain't gonna lie. I just want to tap in and just kind of talk about some stuff that I've been filtering through over the last couple of days, man. From the title, as you can see, dreamers, people who have visions, people who have desires in life. I just want to kind of tap in with y'all and see, number one, how y'all doing, men and women alike, and see how you are actually maneuvering through this season of life. When you look at recessions, when you look at governmental shutdowns, when you look at transitions and things that may happen in life, oftentimes the most creative people are the people who may suffer the most. If you go back to 2020, if you go back to when the people who love to express themselves but love to hide behind the veil of a mask, literally and figuratively. But then also when you go back to those type of people who uh, love to be more social, it seems like in a lot of ways we are headed back more towards those times. Not hoping that certain things happen, or that the government or economy goes to crap or anything like that, but it's just more so for the people who who draw from being inspired from the things that are around them. Even I ask you, how are you doing and how are you creating these days? um I'm a person who, procrastination, and we call it perfectionism, wanting things to be a certain way. Oftentimes I won't do anything for my house if I don't have certain things, because I want things to look the way I want them to look. But in reality, um what's going on to whoever y'all may be? What's going on? You said PvP. What does that mean? Hopefully ain't nothing crazy. You said hi. What's going on, my brother? You said, bro, what's the deal? So, man, do me a favor, man. Um, y'all hit that like button and y'all tap in with your boy, man. It's for all my dreamers. Like I said, I want to know how y'all doing, how y'all creating. Are you being affected by, the things that are going on with the economy and the government and all of those type of things? Uh, because I think a lot of the times the people who are the most creative, thank you for hitting the like button. Appreciate you if you subscribe as well. But I be want to know how you're doing. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. Terrell Taylor, you are much appreciated, my brother. But yeah, man, I just want to tap in to see how y'all doing, see how y'all creating, and how you're being affected by the things that are going on around you. I draw a lot of inspiration from the people that I may be around, the encounters that I have. I get a lot of what we call downloads. You know what I'm saying? And so oftentimes, I can get them just watching a TV show. And then oftentimes, my brother, I appreciate you once again. And oftentimes I get them from seeing the things that are going on around me. And I think what I try to caution myself not to do is to be led. You said good evening. Oh, that's Reese. I was gonna say, who is this? Is good night. You know what I'm saying? Where we at in Texas. But Ms. Reese, what's going on? Um, I try. I am gonna say try. I'll say I believe that for any success or lack of success, no matter what end of the spectrum that I was on, I believe that my mindset, your mindset, is always going to be the biggest thing that differentiates the success that you may actually see or the things that you want. And I believe that fear begins to be this thing that creeps in and stops people from being successful, being fruitful. Using your experiences not to propel you to go forward, but to look down at the things that are going on around you. And I believe that as much as, I was explaining something to somebody at work today, because I'm a bold type of person. I don't mind taking risks. I probably prefer to jump off the deep end and go with my gut, so to speak, go with my intuition or, the spirit, whatever. I prefer to live in that place because it feels normal to me. It feels fruitful to me to try things that other people are scared to do. It actually made me feel different, made me feel alive. And so being a creative, having these dreams of being on stages and performing, entertaining is something that feels very comfortable to me. But at the same time, living in a world where speaking in front of crowds makes me feel very anxious. And so, can anybody relate to that? Number one, you know what I'm saying? Knowing that you're called to do something. God bless my guy. What's the deal? Droopy, my guy. I appreciate you. God bless you too, man. Um, being called to do things in life, right? For me, people probably wouldn't believe it, but I am actually very much introverted. I speak to people when they speak to me. I'd be wanting to mind my business until I know that it's a comfortable, safe environment, meaning I can be who I really want to be, which doesn't mean it has to be anything crazy. But I believe that being young and hearing negative things deterred me. Well, I won't say it deterred me. It allowed me to be super bold about how I wanted to approach life, how I wanted to do things. Because oftentimes when you grow up in certain neighborhoods that may be built around poverty or negativity or whatever that may be, it stops people from speaking life into you if they don't know any better. They'll take the things that make you be who you are or what makes you uniquely you, and they won't allow you to embrace that because they'll take it as a threat to them. And I think, especially if you're from the States, if you're from the United States, if you grew up in the inner city, embracing individuality is something that is cool until it's not, or it's not cool until it's the norm, right? I don't care if that's getting a haircut with a part in it. I don't care if it's uh, getting braids. I don't care what it is. Being a creative, being a person that is not falling into the prototypical norm of life is something that is not always embraced or recommended. You listen to people who are smarter than me and whoever is watching on here, and they'll tell you that the school system was built to produce employees. And at the end of the day, it's nothing wrong with being an employee, right? If you are a person that loves to fit into certain systems, if you are creative in ways that are more built for structures and systems, it's cool. But I've been a person that, not theoretically but literally, have never really fit into many crowds. Not because I was just trying to be so gung-ho. It was times where I was like, nah, fam, I want to pick me, fam. I want to be a part of that crowd. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't work. And that's when you're faced with the tough task of having to embrace something because you have no other alternative. And most people face tough times in their lives, growing up, developing who they are, who God has called them to be ultimately, because they fight against that. And you can lose yourself in trying to appease and become somebody that you're just not. Right. And so for me, entrepreneurship feels safe. Being a creative feels at home because I've always kind of thought a little different from the crowd. I've always, and it's weird because it's like, what people don't realize is when you are different, right? And it's not to say nothing wrong with people who got straight A's their whole life. You never missed a day of school. You had your parents, all those things. That's still unique in its own right. So I would never want to, downplay anybody who experienced that, right? Because that isn't a pity party for people who did have it. It is not this celebration for people who did, right? It's just life. And so everything about who you are, regardless if you had parents, if you worked the job your whole life and you retired at 20 years or whatever, it still all culminates to make you who you are. And so the reality is, if you struggle to embrace that though, right, then you get up here and then it plays tricks on you, and you're not able to be who you're called to be. And so for me, as I was kind of just listening to certain things, having certain conversations over the last couple of days, it made me think about like what holds a person back who is destined to do great things. Like what are some characteristics of people? What is one of the main characteristics of people who simply allow life to dictate to them and not dictate to life? And as I was sitting on a call yesterday, or a Zoom call yesterday, I listened to a guy talk about mindset and how much that actually really affects how we approach life, right? Like, do you think you belong? Do you feel good enough? Not like belong like within this group of people, but just to be on certain stages, to do certain things, to execute a certain way, right? How many things have you started in your life? Something happened and then you stopped. How many things did you fight for to do and then got scared and went the opposite direction? These are realities of life that people never talk about, right? It's like, okay, you can be scared about, okay, let me say it. Okay, let me preface properly. Most time people talk about the fear of failure, right? But people don't ever talk about fear of success. Like, what happens if it works? What happens if the unknown can be scary? Absolutely. What it can be very scary for a large portion of my life, especially as a young kid, young adult. I was fearful of the unknown. Can't tell you exactly what it was, but it was an unknown thing out there, out in TV land, that I just that I was afraid of, and I didn't understand why. And so most people live in these dualities of feeling like they're entitled to something, but not having the stick to itiveness, the awareness, the drive, the consistency, the discipline to see something through, to actually reap the benefits of it. Social media has been one of the greatest enemies to progress, because you could be someone of the what we perceive to be of the opposite color of a black person, be able to do a dance a certain way, and then your visibility skyrockets with nothing to give people who are always looking for a new trick, always wanting to be entertained all over again. And so it's the tough part about being a creator who believes in operating and creating with integrity, is you're always forced to find new adaptive ways to relate or be, you know, appealing to people, or you just decide to fall into whatever the crowd has going on, and you're talking about current events or men versus women, red pill versus blue pill, all of those things that can be very corny and lazy in nature, but it's the things that people are into. So that's why it's like talking about being, this live being more so for the dreamers. It's like, well, if you're a person that, and most people these days are absolutely into content creation, and that's cool. But how do you pull from what you need to be able to be creative, to be innovative, what has been some of the things that have set you back? Whether that is operating in a social media world and you're an introvert, or what have been some of the things that have gave you the cheat code to do what it is that you ultimately believe you're supposed to do. Because that's the hard part. It's like cool if you got the thumbnail. It's cool if you got the title. It's cool if you got the visuals and the graphics to go with it. But it's like, is it salacious enough? Those are the type of questions that you almost have to ask yourself sometimes when you're wanting to have real conversations that are fruitful, that don't just engage people, but it sparks something to change the way people live their lives, the way they think about things, the way they approach certain things in life, how you view relationships, like how do you endure tough times, how do you continue to create and build in a world that is very copycat by nature. And so as a dreamer, as a creative, as a visionary, those are some of the things that we're often faced with, but don't really have the answers for. And it becomes a thing where it's like, who can get to it first, or who can be the nastiest, who can say the worst thing about a female, who can kick somebody out of the studio. And I'm like, all of that stuff can be entertaining in nature, but it gets really old. Tris do, I don't know how you say your last name. Wafer. What's up? How you doing? How you doing? Appreciate you. For anybody who is tapping in, thank you for commenting in the chat. You know what I'm saying? We talking to the dreamers. We talking to people about mindset. Just really not acting like I have all the answers, but really trying to get a dialogue and an understanding on how you approach the things that you do. If you are in fact a dreamer, has something held you back from doing things that you're supposed to do in life? What has your mindset been? How has it stopped you from doing certain things, or how has it actually propelled you to move forward? Do me a favor and hit that like if you can. And if you rocking with the content, this is a network, so there are plenty of solid things to tap in with. Please hit. I appreciate the follow, the subscribe. I appreciate the subscription to the service. You feel me? But yeah, man. And I think I had to have. I think, it's like the whole idea or concept of faith cometh by hearing, right? It's like absolutely true. And it's like, how many times does something need to settle? Let me see. I'm sorry, we got a comment. Only thing that holds me back is a fear of failure mentality. Okay, thank you for commenting once again. What do you believe is the thing that makes you tap into or lean into the thing that you identify as the thing that's holding you back? You get what I'm saying? So it's like somebody knowing that their blood pressure is bad, they know they need to eat better, but they still go get the burger. So it's like, in this situation, if the thing that holds you back is fear of failure mentality, where did you develop that from? Have you ever even thought about it? And then if you have, which it seems like you put some level of thought into it to even be able to identify it, what are the ways to move forward past it, to actually go and move into a space where you can be creative, innovative? Because there are people out there that are part of your metron, your sphere of influence. A metron is this, and then it's like you got the people that fit within your metron. So what is holding you back? What about that can't you overcome or shift your mentality to actually do something different? What if it was something simple that could actually get you to execute in a certain way? Have you thought about that? And what are your solutions? What are your ideas to actually attack that? Yeah. So, I think it's important for us to have community, right? Especially all people, we need community. And I think as a man, sometimes it can be scary because we think that it's just us, Now I believe I already have won. Okay. Yeah. That's the mental now. What made that shift though? You get what I'm saying? Because you said only thing that holds me back is a fear of failure, right? But it's like, now you believe you've already won. So it's like, okay, if that is the case, what has connected the dots for you for that? You get what I'm saying? Because there may be somebody that watches this that what you give them, what your explanation may be the thing that connects the dots for them. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we need community. You know what I'm saying? We need to be around like-minded people who are headed where we're headed, or have been, or have been where we're trying to go. And so conversations like this, I believe, set the stage and foundation for that. You know what I'm saying? I believe that in a lot of what I'm called to do, it's not to exclude women, right? But it's one of those things where it's like, it's very important that I am able to provide things for and be something to men that I didn't have. And a lot of the times, it's things that we do in life that we go through what we go through so we could do it for somebody else. It's like this pastor preached on Sunday. What if you are the victim of God's purpose? What if the things that you've experienced and gone through are a direct result of something that was supposed to affect and touch somebody else in a way? And so you said delusional thinking. I could rock with that. I think so. I think it's important too, though, that we find ways to have concise thought to what it is, right? It's like, this is the problem. This is how I got there. This is how I figured out, that this was what the issue was. This is how I got over. This is what made that possible. So being able to be able to start identifying those things in certain sections is very important. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, going back to the community thing, it's like, I mean, for those of you who are watching though, let me ask you, do you believe that you actually have solid community I believe if you're still sitting on here, you are some level of a dreamer, you're some level of a visionary. You got something that you're excited to do, something that you believe you could do that could wake you up in the morning, you know what I'm saying, to get you out of bed. What is that thing for you? Because I believe that the more negativity that we take in, it's a stat that says it takes like 15 or 16 positive things to replace one negative thing that you hear. So imagine people that have grown up just hearing how trash they are, how you not good enough, how you never gonna be X, Y, and Z. That stuff starts to really have an effect on you that you may not even realize. Why do I think this way? Well, it was planted in you a long time ago. And so having the right kind of people around you, people who aren't intimidated or threatened by you, is something that is incredibly important and necessary in life. And so I believe that when you are a Joseph of sorts, when you are, when you are very different and it's identifiable, whether that's to the eye or to the spirit, then I believe that you have to be very careful in how you protect, how you go about doing life. The people you surround yourself around, the company that you keep, the conversations that you have, because you can be very sensitive to what people have going on. And I know for me, being very like, no disrespect to the people in my family at all, because they're very creative, very fun. That's not the word I'm looking for. They're very, and for lack of a better word, successful people that are in my family. You get what I'm saying? But it's like, I just kind of sat on the outskirts and how I live my life. And I think that I know that it is hard to receive people who don't move, walk, talk, act, think like you. That's how friendships are typically formed, right? It is very rare that somebody is the complete opposite of you and y'all share no interest and y'all are opposites attract. That is an overdone statement. You know what I'm saying? So especially when you start talking about the creative mind, I see things a certain way. I see like 10 steps ahead, and typically it's the in-between things that can get a little shaky. So for most people who dream big or have certain visions, it can sound like hogwash to people who don't see life that way. But I will say this. I believe that we are literally in a time, and my boy Randy C. Mays, check out his YouTube, man. He has a video that he put out that's challenging people to do the thing now. And I'll say I'm in complete agreement with that, because I believe that God has windows of opportunity, has doors that are open. Some things could always be there from the time you're alive to the time you die. If you got 100 years on earth, you have the opportunity to choose certain things, right? If there's a way that you could know, like, man, I'm gonna live to be a certain age, right? But I do believe there are other things that are very small pockets and windows of opportunity to execute in life. And I think that those are some of those things that we need to do, we need to focus on, we need to be intentional about. And that's doing the hard things in life, right? How you do one thing is how we do all things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we have to start we have to start being intentional about throwing caution to the wind when it comes to what God has put in our hearts, who he's called us to be. We just assume so readily that we always have all the time in the world to do certain things. And it's not even just about, you're going to die next week. No. It's about in here and in here. What about people who died 30 years ago, but they kept living? What about the person that had the dream, that had the desires, that had the ideas? The richest place in America is the graveyard, because so many great ideas died with that person. And so it has so much to do with what's going on between your ears. It has so much to do with what you're telling yourself on a regular basis. When you start talking about something like $1 million mindset or something like that, and it's like, how much of that is real? That's really attainable. Talking to somebody, I was talking to, I can't remember who I was saying this to this morning, but it's like God being a respecter of persons. It's like, do I really have the opportunity to be wealthy, to live a certain lifestyle, to be fruitful in a way that I could ever think or imagine, which that scripture as think or imagine, based off of what God could do for you. But it's like, number one, how much of it has to do with what I do, what I think of, what I execute on, how consistent I am, all of those things. Like, how much of it is really in your hands? Because I do believe that, number one, you have to identify what your purpose is. You have to identify what the goal is, what the dream is, to actually be able to be enterprising towards doing that. And what is it? What are you willing for it to cost you? How hard are you willing to work at something? Are you willing to get off work at 5 o'clock and go work on something for 4 or 5 hours and work at it like it's your full-time job, and still, lose a little bit of sleep to get up in the morning to go do it all over again? So much, though, of what we do, if we look at the things that are going on around us, and I was just having this conversation earlier, is like, I personally believe that there are great opportunities out there for everybody, right, in the job market. But I think it would be foolish of me not to have my own platform, not to be able to go to a StreamYard or go to an Ecamm or go to an OBS, to have a YouTube where I can upload videos and talk about these types of things, to create opportunities for myself, to build certain relationships, to have the opportunity to monetize certain things, and just depend on a job. That's never been something that was exciting to me. I'm not against jobs. I don't think that they're bad. I believe that they could help fund your life. They could help fund the life that you want. If you are able to live below your means and then put money into certain pockets or opportunities to help further your dream or how you want to live, so, or to build your business ultimately. But we live in weird times when it comes to finances, though. So consider yourself incredibly blessed if you have everything that you need. If you can buy groceries on a regular basis, if you can put gas in your car, if you can afford insurance, if you could do things for your children, you're an anomaly, because the reality is the numbers will show that people are struggling far beyond what they're willing to admit. And then living in our society, keeping up with the Joneses, making yourself look like something that you're not, is kind of how it goes, unfortunately. And so I think for me, although I'm not really, I think you have to be careful and use discretion on how you talk about what you're dealing with, what you're going through, because I think that's just wisdom. I do believe that there are pockets and windows for creators who have a gift and an ability to be vulnerable, or maybe not vulnerable for that word, but more so candid, honest, you know. I just think people need that. You know, having a conversation. I do these think tanks every other Sunday here in Mansfield, Texas, at this place called the Vault, 545 for all the fellas who want to pull up. And it's just like refreshing to hear men talk about making adjustments to their lives based off of like having a certain level of wisdom to know, okay, this isn't working, let me pivot. I'm not getting rid of this, I'm pivoting. I'm finding a way, I'll come back to this, but right now I have to do this because this is going on and I got this I got to do. And I think that men being Renaissance men, being enterprising, being forward thinkers is something that we've missed in society for a little minute now. Because I think we've lived under the delusion that living in America has created good times, and good times create soft men. And I think that we've grown soft in a lot of ways because we're just super afraid to do the hard things. Period. We are afraid as men to do hard things. And so platforms like this are going to hold men accountable in love, but we're also going to work to build a community to bridge a gap so that there's understanding. And so it's like for the women, it's like, no, we want you to listen in because there may be something in there where you're able to relay a message to your spouse or to a close friend of yours, a sibling or whatever. But as men, we have to stop running away from doing the hard things in life. You know, we end up having a bunch of men that were not raised by other men. They were raised by TV. They were raised by music. They were raised by just women. And thank you to any, single mother, single parent that, any bonus parent, or, adopted parent, that wanted to take somebody in to teach them something, to give them love, to cultivate them, because those things truly are important. It could seem boring, it could seem overdone, it could seem like a pander prince, all those things, but it's real. It's not about catering to anybody. It's about saying thank you to people across this nation that decide to do hard things, because that's another thing. That's a hard thing to do, to feed somebody that doesn't belong to you, or somebody that's by blood, but you didn't have them. And so what ends up happening is these men are raised by music. They're raised by rappers. They're raised by actors. I'll tell people all the time, like my idea and vision of what love looked like, relationships, dating, came from a movie like Love Jones. It was a romanticized, toxic, exclusively black way of approaching life, love, entrepreneurship, expression, creativity. And that's what I thought love and all that stuff looked like. So that's an example of how I didn't have anybody sitting me down having real conversations about what's wise and why you shouldn't do certain things and why you should do other things. So, as entrepreneurs, dads are important to critical thinking, to risk aversion. If a woman alone raises a child, they're going to be less averse to take risk in the right way, essentially. And there's no disrespect to any woman. I don't think it's even a knock to you. It's just saying that there's checks and balances to life, right? There are certain things that women excel at greatly that men could never touch them on, and vice versa. And so learning to embrace those things can kind of help bridge the gap between us. But in our society today, we don't believe in roles anymore. One of the worst things that happened to the NBA was taking away roles. When big men just wanted to take the ball out to the three-point line and shoot like Steph Curry, the game was screwed then. Now we have games where people score 150 to 145. No defense was played. poor communication, poor execution. So we have to get back to a place where things like that matter. Everybody just can't do everything. Not on a team. A marriage is a form of a team. So not in marriage, not at work. Everybody just can't do everything. It's not effective. It's not efficient. It's not realistic. And so when you talk about facilitating a business, especially as like an entrepreneur or creative, I can't, for years, I've been a solopreneur in a sense. I came up with the idea, I created the platform, I created the content, I recorded the content, I recorded the audio. I can tell you how to do this from A to B. I promise you I can. A to Z, rather. Doesn't mean it's most effective, though. And that's where we start having the disconnects in what it means to actually build something, to scale something, to be vertically integrated. It's like we don't have anything to build off of because I'm doing everything. I'm the marketing team, I'm the advertisement, I'm the social media guy. It's like, bro, and you're gonna get burnt out on that. I don't care how much you love it, because there's gonna be aspects of what you do that you don't love. And so as a result of that, there are going to be times and days where you don't even want to do what it is that you actually love to do, because now it equates to you having to do something else that you don't want to do. We have to stop taking pride in inching for every little thing to be relevant, to be effective or efficient. Teamwork make the dream work. And so where I believe mindset fits into all of this is understanding that you're just one person, that you can't do it all. It's impossible. And if you did, and it was a business where you could actually do that and scale to 100,000, 500,000, $1 million, how long can you exist in that space? What is it going to cost you with family, spouse, friends, children, leisure time? You make $1 million and you spend all of your money trying to replicate the process, that you don't even get to enjoy the life that you've created for yourself. But that mindset is like, I don't trust anybody. I got to do it all. Nobody can do it as good as me. Cap on all occasions. Cap is at an all-time high. Cap is literally at an all-time high, because I've gotten, in my opinion, fairly decent at doing thumbnails. I haven't created one for this. I probably won't. I'm just going to, put it out and probably create a thumbnail later. But I promise you, I could create a thumbnail in 3 minutes or less based off of the title. It's gotten, and I think I'm really not giving myself enough credit in how fast I could actually create that thumbnail. I could probably do a thumbnail in 1.5 minutes, give or take. Maybe I'll say 2 minutes. I probably can create a thumbnail in 2 minutes on Canva. But does that mean that I'm most effective in doing something that I could do in 2 minutes? No, because it could be a garbage thumbnail. It could not hit what makes a viral video thumbnail actually do what it does. We have to start thinking in the mindset of this generation that we're presently in has everything to do with collaboration. Who do I know that's connected to the man so that I can put myself in position to be next to the man? But everybody wants to grind. Everybody wants to hustle. It's the nature of how we move today. And we've been sold a dream that we really can't achieve, because we're greater together. I don't care what time in history you go to, we were always and always will be greater together. You look at Adam and Eve, if they had been on one accord with that decision, starting with the man and what God told him, gave him instruction to do, we're not in this situation. And then that just trickles down throughout whatever in life, in society. We're greater together. We want to go Tower of Babel. What won't they be able to do? Let me send them in different directions. Let me confuse their thinking. Let me distort their talking so they don't understand each other. God said we could do. Hey, they could. What can't they do? They on one accord. They rocking. Let's create some confusion. And so all I'm saying is it's highly important that we work to be more inclusive to each other. I ain't talking about a gender, I ain't talking about a sexual orientation. I'm talking about what it really takes to equal success. It's working together, being intentional about being enterprising. I keep using that word because it is, I believe that it really does sum up what is needed in today's society. Having or showing initiative and resourcefulness. That's what enterprising means. To be enterprising is having or showing initiative and resourcefulness. So so I'm, as I said earlier, big on the whole manhood aspect of this. Being able to be resourceful, being able to be what was the other word? To take initiative is everything. Everything. We're not afforded the luxury to sit on our hands and just wait for life to happen to us. And I'm saying that as a man to another man. We just don't get to do it. We have to be forward thinking. We have to be enterprising. We have to be, we got to be able to slow the ship down. SHIP. We have to be able to slow the ship down. We can't just allow life to happen to us, because they're never, another man or woman is never going to look at a wife and say, what did you do? Why did y'all lose the house? What did you do to lose the house? What did you do to lose the car? What did you do for the lights to get cut off? What did you do for there to be no food in the no groceries in the refrigerator? No, I'm gonna look at you, brother, and it's gonna be a question posed to you. So with that being understood, I also say get to dreaming. For some people, a job is never gonna suffice. It's never gonna be the answer. So it's going to take you to go do something. People love talking about the universe. It's like God created the universe. So how about you give him that credit? God gave you a gift, an ability, a dream, an idea. And we're letting fear, we're letting bad mindsets, we're letting people with poor emotional skills, poor coping skills tell us how we should think, how we should feel, when we should create. Do one thing, niche down so crazy. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with pick one thing and niche down and all of that. I'm saying I'm not called to that. And that's okay. Because it's amazing how it was like maybe 2 lives ago. I basically was going live and it was my sports show. And this young lady hopped on and she said, "What is this live about?" And I said, "Well, this is my sports show, this and that, blah, blah." I started giving the spiel about how it's a network and, there are multiple things that you can get that are in the frame of entertainment. Monday, sports show. Wednesday, church flow, church related show. Friday, late night shift. And then the other 2 days will be allocated to the Mind of a Man podcast specifically and the conversation platform. Now I need to get a camera, all that other stuff, another camera. But the idea is you couldn't get me to believe that when God gave me the idea, even for the changing my whole platform to the Mind of a Man, that I would have had a woman who said, "Oh, that's dope, I'm subscribing." I would have never guessed it. But that's why we can't wait to run with the gifts and ideas that God gives us. This is a season where we do it now, and we don't just do it now, we do it right now. Get down, sit down and get the writing, sir. Get to creating. Get to being innovative. Because the time is truly now. It doesn't always have to be doom or gloom. It doesn't have to be negative Nancy. It can be great. But just think the sooner that you get going, the sooner you can get where you're trying to go. It's A plus B equals C. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So I hope that on the playback, for those of you who may be watching, that if you made it this far, I say thank you once again. I ask you to please hit the like. I ask you to subscribe, because this type of content is always something that you can get in abundance. Not a motivational speech, so to speak, or anything like that, but more so the aspect and idea of somebody who is a free thinker and encourages others to think freely as well. I'm going to give you context on content that is rooted and grounded from a perspective of somebody who is well read and well thought. I'm not just trying to tell you who to vote for here. And my metrics by how I would tell you something like that would be based off of the Hagios Logos, the Helios Biblios, kinfolk, the Holy Bible. I'm not telling people to do anything from a standpoint of what I personally feel in my emotions, because those things can sway and wane depending on the circumstance. Do I have a desire to grow this platform? Absolutely. Get yourself a super chat while you're at it. Get yourself a super sticker while you're at it. But at the same time, do I devalue my platform by making things always like, and they never are, by the way. But do I devalue my platform by making it salacious or negative or hating or backbiting or gossip girlish? I'm not into that. The content that I speak about, I try to be as informed as I can. I read multiple articles and YouTube, watch multiple YouTube clips and things of that nature. And then believe within time, God will open the doors for those relationships to be made, for the right eyeballs to get on the content that I put out, for the actual interest of people who want to be a part of what I call my brain trust. My community is the brain trust. It's the mind of a man. If you would have to have sat with my content intimately in that regard to really get an idea of who I am across all platforms. And so the brain trust, you know what I'm saying? It's legacy attached to what I do. So do I have anybody that has any comment? Anybody who has any thought, anything that they want to push back against, speak in support of even? If not, let me know, because it is 11:37. I do have to get up in the morning to go to the gym, but I do appreciate you guys for tapping in with me, checking out the content. Whoever you three beautiful souls is, I definitely know one of them is Miss Reese. I always love and appreciate you for tapping in and being supportive, because it's late. You're probably over there snoring. But for the other people who may be on and may be watching this far, like I said, please hit the like, please subscribe, please tap in with all the content that I put out, and please make sure that you are going back and looking at other content. But with that being said, I don't think we got nobody else that want to chime in. She said, you feel me? And Bruce Glass. Don't ever let me forget about Bruce Glass. My auntie, I need to check on her because she ain't been on live in a while. But I do got my faithful few. The Randy C. Mays, the LaShondas, the Bruce Glasses. You know what I'm saying? I got my people. So I got my people with me. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I ain't even listen to Boosie like that. But I digress. We're getting into the niggerish stuff now. Anyway, as I end every live, life is hard enough. So please, don't just live elevated. Thank you to anybody who has an opportunity to really think differently. Shout out to Suffering in Silence, man. That's a nonprofit for the women. Definitely built to help build the encouragement and engagement within the community for women. So by all means, please check out Suffering in Silence on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and all the alike. You're gonna see a bunch of Black women on there doing their thing. Not just specifically with Black women. I'm talking about the people who created it. But anyway, until next time, I love you. May the Lord keep you. I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining my impromptu live. Until next time, Godspeed. Selah.